Hello, everyone. It's Amy Armstrong here. Today I'm sitting down with Nicole Moneer. Nicole's going to tell us a little bit about her journey prior to the RCP, finding the RCP, how it's helped her in her own health, and how she's been able to use this knowledge in her existing health business. So, hello, Nicole.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on today to talk about my story. I'm
Yeah, thank
excited
you.
to
Thank you
share.
for sharing. So, take us back before the RCP, Nicole, and tell us about what your health was like, if you had any health issues, and and how you found the RCP.
Okay, so I started working in the health and fitness industry about 25 years ago. So that was in the late 90s. And at that time, I was on over a dozen prescriptions and I suffered from dozens of chronic conditions. My dad was a doctor. He died in 1996. He was 57 at the time. And
Wow.
my mom, a nurse, she passed away in 2012. She was 69 at the time. And then my brother was a lawyer. He was 50 when he passed away, and he died just in 2018.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't until about 2006, even though I was working in the health and fitness industry as a trainer, and then I progressed to getting like nutrition, but that was more like conventional nutrition, not like more holistic. And I was getting worse and worse. So working out, the gym, exercise didn't give me health. And that type of dietary information didn't give me health. And so I was sick of being sick. And at the time, I was in marital counseling. And I have since gone through a divorce. That divorce was finalized in 2010. And so that's also another part of my healing. But in 2005, we started marital counseling. And then by spring of 2006, my marital counselor had referred me to an integrative chiropractor because I had really bad PMS. And, at the time I was on the birth control pill, which now we know how
Mm.
toxic that is. And so then, come to find out when I sat down with this integrative doctor, it was, manifested. It was meant to be. So he said, well, I could give you this progesterone cream to put on here, just like our counselor was telling me, oh, we'll get this progesterone cream. And he said, why don't we get to the root cause? Let's look at diet. Let's change some things there. Let's put you on like a medicinal liver detox, etc. And so we did that. And then I started bleeding when I was having bowel movements. And so that was a sign of candida and just gut dysbiosis.
Mm.
And so then at the time, again, this was before RCP and before my CHEK education. So at that time in 2006, my first baby step into this transformation was that I had a list of foods to eat and a list of foods to eliminate. And that's when I started gravitating more towards whole foods, not to give them plugs, but organic. And at that time, there weren't really a lot of those grocery stores around here.
Yeah.
I'm in Chicago. And now it's they're in demand. And so I was eating whole foods. I was cooking from scratch. I stopped gluten and wheat. And after 7 months of consistently following foods to eat, foods not to eat, along with supplementing, my conditions reversed. I had asthma, I had allergies, I was taking an EpiPen, I had an inhaler everywhere, I was getting allergy shots weekly, I had reoccurring sinus infections, I had chronic fatigue, I had acne, I had IBS, I had abnormal pap smears, and the list goes on with other conditions and all sorts of craziness that I had that doctors could never figure out. Like I was on this merry-go-round. I had ruptured ovarian cysts 3 times. I was in the ER for that several times. And so then, and that was when I was like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and today I'm turning 50 in 2 months. And so the older you get, you aren't doomed. And so then
Yeah.
fast forward to the end of like the 7-month transformation, I got off all my meds, and then it became a new way of living for me. And so then I continued on the path and wanting more education and helping clients in different ways. And so I'm a licensed Czech holistic health practitioner. So I look at clients, their diet, their movement, their happiness, their sleep, the psyche, any trauma, and so forth. And so then in 2017, my son was probably about 3, and I had been nursing him on demand, co-sleeping, and I was in and out of court with his father at the time. We're no longer doing any of that. And then I was working part-time. My parents were deceased, so I was, really the sole caregiver.
No stress, no stress in your life.
Yeah, right? So then, here I was at the time feeling really good. And then a couple years into this, all of a sudden I was having, insomnia and fatigue and just, a lot of stress. And then I found Dr. Kayla Daniels, who I knew her from other work with her in the past. And so she did a hair test on me. And 6 months later, after following the protocols, my fatigue and my insomnia were reversed. Yeah. And then the biggest selling point to me at the end of that 6 months was that one of the questions on the test was, are you not just physically, has your health improved, or are you stronger, but are you emotionally stronger? And I was like, oh my gosh, because I was setting these boundaries at the time with the father of my child that I wasn't doing before. And I was blown away by what the minerals could do as far as giving you emotional strength. And so then I knew at some point that I wanted to learn it myself and start implementing it with my clients, because I knew that with my Czech education, there's a lot of emotional work with there going into like past childhood trauma and so forth, and starting, at in utero, which is a lot like the RCP. And I knew that for my clients who didn't want to open up to me, a lot of clients don't want to talk about this stuff. They've had a lot of traumatic experiences. Yeah. They don't want to relive it. They don't want to share it. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe, and that's fine. But I knew that getting this diagnostic tool under my belt would be able to offer my clients another avenue to go down to, aid in their healing journey. And so I got the education in 2019. So how did I come across this? Well, when I reached out to Dr. Kayla Daniels, I was looking at a couple other schools for it, but I wasn't really too sold on them. And, whether it was pricing or like I wasn't getting out of it what I wanted to take away for my clients.
And you're talking about the hair tissue mineral analysis.
Correct, like the hair and the blood. Yeah. Like, I looked at FDN, and I forget, there was another one too, and maybe even Dr. Wilson's, and again, not to bash anything, but it didn't align with me. They just didn't align with me.
Yeah.
And so with what I had been taught, my whole life, and then my whole even personal life transformation. And so then Dr. Kayla Daniels was like, Morley Robbins root cause protocol. It's like, okay. So then Christiane called me and we talked, and I told her I was shopping around, and I told her about my check and the emotional piece. She's like, Nicole, you're going to fit in just fine. That's the really important piece, which, you and I kind of talked about too, that most people don't really connect the dots between their stress, their disease. They don't connect the dots on the two. And so this additional tool to my coaching has been a huge difference. It's been very beneficial. And my clients, I can't rave enough about adding in the RCP, because even though I have my Czech education, RCP has forced me even more to go deeper into like the somatic body and even pursuing other areas of education around the emotional piece. Because when I sit down, I don't have a single client that I've worked with, and I've worked with thousands, that don't have like a stressful event
Yeah.
that happened, or even like a way of living as a child in their home, their upbringing, that later on they have these conditions or these lifelong patterns and habits and relationships. And so in one sense, it's been a huge tool to my practice that has helped it flourish even more. And it's helped my clients. That's the most important part, is that they really can understand themselves. And like as a coach, that's my job. I help them explore themselves and go on their merry way, not becoming dependent on me. And then the other important piece is that for myself, you know, I'm first client. And it's like, I got to go through this. I got to feel it. I can't be preaching it and telling people what to do if I haven't been there. And it's the same thing with my check. It's like, I got to go through all this stuff first before I start prescribing it. And so for me now, and even when I started this in 2017, when I did the test, I was like, okay, now my next goal is prevention and getting through menopause with ease. I turned 50, as I said, this year and 2 months. And, you know, looking back 50 to 20, I was at the doctor every week. I don't have health insurance today. I don't need it. I don't go to the doctor. I have catastrophic insurance, and I learned how to take care of myself. And I am a daughter of a doctor and a nurse, and nothing to shame my parents on or blame them, but doctors and nurses are taught medicines and surgeries. They aren't taught how to eat, how to manage stress, what supplements or what minerals are, you know? So for me now, it's more about prevention, aging gracefully, and just proof that you are not doomed because you get older. And that, and again, like I'm still menstruating at 50, and I don't color my hair. I don't have gray hair. And overall, my health is excellent. You know, and again, I think I was talking before we got on here that my biggest thing is that I tune into my body's wisdom. Like stress is what will impact like a symptom. Like I'm not immune to anything, but I know when, you know, maybe I have heart palpitations or anxiety, or I'm breaking out, or I'm having some type of pain, it's usually that these emotions I'm not processing are getting stuck. And I'm not processing them. I'm not managing them.
And do you think the RCP helped you to tune into that further than, you know, your training that you had previously?
Totally, because as I said, my tech education really opened my eyes to the full scope. And then when I got to RCP and started working with clients, I started to see that, oh my gosh, this emotional piece, there's so much more to it, which, you know, my curiosity shot up. Again, it's not like the more I learn, the more I realize there's more to learn. When I, you know, it's not like, oh, the more I don't know. I mean, it's like, no, I want to learn more. Like there's so much out there. It is overwhelming. There's so much information out there, and it's like, which way do I go? But I am grateful for the path that I've manifested, because it's really brought so many, you know, that my clients are my teachers. Morley's, you know, my teacher. My colleagues at the RCTC are my teachers. I mean, there's so many people that are my teachers, but it continues to just help me grow. And you know, again, I'm my first client. Help me, and then I can better help other people as well. And it's I think one of the best parts of that I enjoy is, you know, connecting with clients, because there are a lot of people, you know, I like attracts like, and I work with a lot of people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're sick and tired of being on a merry-go-round of doctors, and they want their health back. And it's really like they've been told all these things that create so much fear. And I guess just to share that, stop believing that, because our bodies are designed to function optimally when we give them what they need physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if anybody is ready to make those changes. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's an uphill battle, and it's a way of living.
Yeah,
But
it's a lifestyle change, that's for sure. But I think the power of the RCP is that, you know, like you said, there's so many parts and there's so much to know, and there's so many connections to make, but the RCP really just simplifies it.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It puts a lot together in one. And again, it's there's a lot of true foods and food supplements, and a lot of just wisdom in trusting the self and what your body is trying to tell you.
Absolutely. And I think also, before, just to touch on, you know, what you were saying about being able to help your clients, you know, see that stress piece, that the hair tissue mineral analysis, that's its strongest gift, isn't it? Is that it's a stress profile on the page. It's showing people, you know, how they've lived their lives expressed in, you know, in these minerals. So it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the other part that I love, is that when clients are, you know, at a loss, they're at a loss. They just feel hopeless and helpless.
Mm.
And then at the end of our first, I usually do a 2-hour Zoom call for the first appointment, and they typically feel excited and they feel hopeful, because they've been told, oh no, it's got to be this way, and no, you're broken, you can't be fixed.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, okay, yep, your minerals are this, but
Yep.
this explains this, and this explains this, and it's going to take some time, but I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and they usually do by the time, you know, the 2 hours is up.
Yeah.
So it is. It's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. And hope's a very powerful thing, isn't it, to give back to people when they feel broken, because they're not broken.
Yeah.
They're just dysregulated and out of balance, really. So tell us about your experience going through the Institute to become a root cause protocol consultant. How did you find the course in itself, and what did you really gain from taking that you didn't already have from just doing the root cause protocol yourself and going through that process?
So with Dr. Kayla Daniels, it was not as in depth, like regarding the emotional pieces.
Mm.
And, you know, again, when I went through the course and came across it after talking to Christan, and made the decision, like, this is what aligns with me. It feels good. It feels right with everything that I've had in my past. Then, you know, the course was about 3 months, a little over 3 months. And then
16 weeks, I think, yeah.
And so, I mean, it's overwhelming. I love the client cases to study. That was really helpful. And I think for myself, we had the 3 practitioners that were working together in the class, and we still keep in contact, and we throw questions off each other. So it's nice to have that outside of the forum, and you know, other groups where you can connect with them. And then you know, the continuing education from Morley that you get as well with the webinars. I mean, again, there's so much information. It is hard to watch everything, but I enjoy that material when I can. I listen when I have free time, because I love learning. And the emotional piece was really, because when I started with, let me share this, because I didn't share this with you before. So when I started with the RCP course, my sodium and potassium were like through the roof. And at that time, again, in court still, except there was some issues around like schooling and all that, and schooling and vaccines, I'm gonna say it. And so I was having anxiety and panic attacks, which I was 47 at the time. I'd never had that. ever. And I was like, what's going on with me? I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And so
Not
then
nice.
did the test and started following Morley's versus Dr. Kayla, so the true, and noticed improvement. And again, went through the first 4 phases, all the phases pretty quickly. And then improvement everywhere. And then I think the biggest improvement 2020 was that now my son's father and I are out of court, and he is totally on board with me with everything. From he loves the homeschooling. I know this is kind of a separate topic, and he totally understands reasons why not to. Can I drive that? I don't think I need to say the word. And he even is incorporating organics and gluten-free, especially with our son, and because there were some issues there with food back and forth, and so totally on board. So like even there, it's helped me grow so many ways emotionally, not just necessarily from the minerals, but the emotional work that I've done, which has come to me from so many avenues. Yes, the RCP sparked a lot of it. My son, was also a wake-up call that I have stuff to do, but then the RCP sparking it led me to other avenues, which has really forced me to, again, work more on myself. The work's never ending. But yeah, so there's just so much that, and so now I did my last 3 years of hair mineral tests, and my test as of January 2022, my minerals were like perfect.
Yeah, wow.
And that was after 3 years. My calcium went up a little bit, but I think that could be from, I have a podcast, and somebody else pointed out to me, like, you're exposed to more EMFs, which open up the calcium channels. So that's really the only thing I'm working on is that, and then continually working on that bioavailable copper and ceruloplasmin.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a lifelong project, that one. Yeah. And you're certainly a testament to what, a healthy lifestyle and working on your mineral balance can do. And, it's reflected in the way you look and obviously the way you feel as well. And I mirror that. I'm 44 and I certainly feel, 100 times better than I did in my 20s and my 30s, and probably even my teens, if I'm honest, as far as energy goes. So, it's been an amazing ride in that the energy that it can create for you is just pretty phenomenal. And like you say, we don't need to be slowing down because we're getting older, and I think that's really important for other women to hear, that, you can later in your life get this energy back, and it's and then what that allows you to do, emotionally and in all the other parts of your life is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I guess just to recap on what you've shared with us today, and kind of give us a Cliff Notes version of how the RCP has changed your life, what would you say?
It's provided me with education that, in my opinion, is second to none. I've been to college and all that, and I have my Bachelor of Science. But again, this is my personal opinion that in my later life, when I'm so passionate about this, that like I am interested in learning, and it really is something I enjoy. And I know there's many people out there that are like, oh, I want to do what you do. And it's like, if you want to do what I do, the first thing is you got to work on healing yourself. You're your first client. So whether that means going through the RCPC or, hiring someone to go through it, because again, it's like the more you experience and go through it, the better. Again, it's been a great tool. I do get many people that reach out to me from being listed on the website as well. And it's interesting to see Morley's growth. He's like a podcast whore.
He's everywhere.
So he's going to be on my podcast again this week. So And I mean that with love when I say that, but he's
Yeah,
everywhere, and he's doing it. He's getting it out there. And I'll tell you, we're like, oh, I found the RCP from this podcast, and I found you from the RCP website. I'm like, okay, that's
yeah,
great. And then they're like, I resonate with your story, so I'm like, okay, great. And it's really he's got great information that's solid. It's
yeah,
solid. It's really hard to see a lot of people out there with like, oh, I've got this and this, and it's like it's not really backed up, or again, like with all, like, to me, my Czech education, you can't compare with it. And same thing, like when I'm looking at all these other with the RCP, like in my opinion, with these testing and the information from the RCP is really well rounded.
Yeah, and it's dynamic. What we learn at the Institute, it doesn't just sort of stop there. Morley is researching and reading the research every single day, and he brings that back to the community. So, it's just ongoing learning, isn't it? Which is,
yeah, and that's why, like, I love the ongoing, the webinars and all that, because that helps me, because again, so many questions, every client's so different, and there's all these new labels and diagnoses, but it all goes back to the minerals and the iron and the copper.
Yeah, so simple when you put it like that. Well, thank you for sharing your ride this far with the RCP, and how you're kind of incorporating that into your professional life is going to be really fascinating for other people in the health field to hear that. How they can probably add another layer to their own practice to help their clients even more. So thanks for sharing that, and we'll pop your details in the video notes if people want to get in touch with you or listen into your podcast and listen to some more of Morley. They can do that. So thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Amy, for inviting me on to speak.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.